Here are clear ways the social, cultural, religious, political conditions plus historical context shaped the foundational period. Mecca right pointing arrow Medina. For each point, how it influenced, a Qur'an link, only your set surahs, and whether the Qur'an agreed, reformed, rejected what it found. Below is the same content rewritten as simple explanatory paragraphs, no bullet points. It keeps each point's influence, a Qur'an link from your set surahs only, and whether the Qur'an agreed, reformed, rejected what it found. Opposition in Mecca strongly shaped the Qur'an's style as a call plus warning. Because leaders and crowds resisted, the Qur'an used clear argument, repeated reminders, and strong warnings, and it exposed the social tactics used to block the message. In Fussilat, people say their hearts are covered and they cannot hear, 41-5, and the disbelievers even tell others to make noise over the recitation so it cannot be heard, 41-26. The Qur'an rejects this opposition and reforms public listening habits by calling people back to reflection and sincerity. The strong oral culture of Arabia shaped how revelation was delivered. In a society where learning spread through speech, memorizing, and public recitation, the Qur'an emphasized measured recitation and steady reading so it could be understood and retained. Al-Muzammil commands reciting the Qur'an in a measured tone, 73-4. Here the Qur'an agrees with and uses the oral culture, but it directs it toward truth and guidance. Persecution and pressure also shaped the foundational period by making spiritual training come before any form of power. Early believers needed inner strength, so revelation trained them through night prayer, patience, and reliance on Allah rather than reliance on tribe and protection networks. Al-Muzammil opens with night worship and continues with commands to endure what opponents say, 73, 1-10. The Qur'an reforms how people seek strength. The foundation becomes worship and trust in Allah. The presence of widespread polytheism made Tawhid the starting center of the message. Since many worshipped others besides Allah, the Qur'an began with the clearest foundation. There is only one God and worship belongs to Him alone. Fussilat makes this explicit when the Prophet is told to declare that he is human, but Revelation teaches that your God is one, 41-6. The Qur'an rejects shirk and affirms Tawhid as the core. Doubt, denial, and demands for proof led the Qur'an to argue using signs of creation. When people asked, "Why believe?" the Qur'an pointed to visible signs, such as the heavens, order in creation, and daily provision, as evidence that should awaken thought and humility. Al-Mulk highlights the perfection and design of the heavens, 67-3-4, and An-Nahl points to Allah's blessings and signs in creation and provision, 16-10-18. The Qur'an reforms thinking by shifting people away from superstition and stubborn denial toward reflection on Allah's signs. Harmful customs in society forced the Qur'an to bring clear moral reform. Some social norms were openly unjust, so the Qur'an corrected them directly rather than leaving them as culture. An-Nahl condemns the reaction of shame and grief at the birth of a daughter, 1658-59. The Qur'an rejects the custom and reforms values by rebuilding dignity and moral responsibility. Custom-based law also pressured the Qur'an to define halal and haram properly. People were declaring rules by tribe and culture, sometimes claiming, Allah said, when it was only their tradition. The Qur'an set a principle: do not invent religion. An-Nahl forbids saying, without knowledge, this is lawful and this is forbidden, as a lie against Allah, 16-116. And Al-Ma'idah warns believers not to forbid what Allah has made lawful and not to fall into extremes, 5. 87-88. The Qur'an rejects invented rulings and reforms practice to be revelation-based and balanced. As the community grew in Medina, the situation changed from a persecuted group to a functioning society. That growth required law and public policy to protect people from harm and conflict. Al-Ma'idah bans intoxicants and gambling because they damage society and faith, 5. 90-91. The Qur'an rejects harmful acts and affirms social protection through community-wide rules. A multi-group society also required justice systems and procedure. When people live together with disputes, property issues, and competing interests, informal custom is not enough. The Qur'an provided structured legal procedure, especially around evidence and testimony, to prevent and chaos. Al-Ma'idah gives witness procedures for serious matters like wills and disputes, 5. 106-108. The Qur'an reforms informal custom into structured justice. Interfaith contact shaped identity and belief boundaries as well. Living near or with Christians and others required clear teaching on worship and doctrine so that Muslims knew what Islam affirms and what it rejects. In Al-Ma'idah, the passage about Jesus clarifies that worship belongs to Allah alone and rejects worship of others, while affirming accountability before Allah. 5. 116-120. The Quran rejects shirk, affirms tawhid, and reinforces responsibility before God. Tribal revenge culture also pushed the Quran to promote forgiveness as a higher ethic. In a world where retaliation was seen as honor, the Quran modeled restraint and mercy to break cycles of harm. In Yusuf, the moment of forgiveness is clear when he says there is no blame and he forgives, 12-92. The Quran reforms honor culture into mercy and moral maturity. Finally, building a new Ummah identity shaped what belief looked like in practice. Islam needed loyalty beyond tribe, so it defined believers as those who are steadfast, upright, and hopeful in the hereafter. Fussilat praises those who say, "Our Lord is Allah," and then remain firm, 41-30. And Al-Mulk strengthens the seriousness of accountability, warning of the hereafter for those who reject, 67, 6-11. The Quran affirms belief-based identity and reforms tribal identity by making faith and righteousness the real center. A strong sentence students can memorize is this: because early Muslims faced strong public resistance in Mecca, 41-5, 41-26. The Quran first built spiritual resilience through worship and patience, 73, 1-10, and argued for tawhid using signs of creation, 67-34, 16-10-18. Then, as the community developed in Medina, revelation expanded into law, public policy, and justice procedures, 5, 87-91. 5. 106-108. Clarified belief in interfaith settings, 5. 116-120. And promoted forgiveness over revenge, 12-92.